Hello?
Yes, hi, hello. This is Constable Rodriguez with the RCMP. Is this Bill?
Yes, it is.
Yes, how are you doing today, Bill?
Not bad, and yourself?
That's good to hear. I'm good, thank you. So I'm calling to follow up on your complaint that you placed not too long ago. It's regarding your kids, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so would you mind running me through what's going on?
Well, the Minister of the Department of Social Development, Dorothy Shepherd, made an application to put an emergency protection order in against me, prevent me from seeing my children. Now, I made a report that my children were being kept from me in contravention of a court order, and John Galloway had called me. He's an RCMP officer in Grand Bay Westfield, and he told me that on May 10th, an emergency protection order was ordered by the Department of Social Development against me, and he wasn't going to do anything about my children being kept from me in contravention of a court order by their mother, Danica Edgett, and I believe that file should still be open with the Grand Bay Westfield attachment of the RCMP for Section 282 and 127.
Okay. So you mean the order for you not to see your kids is still valid in that sense?
There was no order made at that time. The order was not made, or the application for the order was not made until May 23rd. I was served on May 24th, and on May 25th I was in court. And on May 26th, the judge signed the court order stating that the emergency protection order was going to go in place on an interim basis until we had a trial on June 23rd of 2023. In the meantime, I was supposed to have supervised visitation set up by the minister, Dorothy Shepherd, and her agent, Cassie McDougall. Cassie McDougall had made arrangements with Supreme HS for visitation. I was supposed to have 2 visits last week, Monday and Tuesday, 2 hours each in duration, and my children didn't show up to either. So now the minister and her agent, Cassie McDougall, are not turning my children over to me in compliance with a court order, which is keeping a child in contravention of a court order, violation of Section 282 of the Criminal Code of Canada. And it is also a violation of Section 127, failure to comply with a court order. Now, Supreme HS called me again today, and they told me that the children weren't coming again. So again, Dorothy Shepherd and her agent, Cassie McDougall, social worker, have failed to bring my children to me in compliance with the court order made on May 26th by Judge Danny Roy. I have a copy of the court order and can provide it to you if you'd like to show that they are in contempt of court and they have violated Section 282 and 127 of the Criminal Code of Canada.
Okay, so they called you today and told you that they wouldn't bring over the kids? Is that
the Supreme HS was
because you said us on Monday and Tuesday to supervise visitation, right?
Supposed to. That's what the court order was, and that was the agreement made by the agent for Dorothy Shepherd, Cassie McDougall, social worker, and supervised visitation was supposed to take place with 5 conditions set out. I have the conditions that were provided to me by Cassie McDougall at the Department of Social Development. I can provide you a copy of that as well. Currently...
Did they provide any reason as to why that was the case today, that they were not bringing the kids over?
No, they said the kids didn't want to come, but that's really immaterial and irrelevant to the court order, because the kids aren't party to the contract. The contract is between Dorothy Shepherd, me, and the court. And the court order was made for Dorothy Shepherd and the Department of Social Development to arrange supervised visitation for me pending the trial. And since that order, I have not had any visitation with my children, even though I agreed to the conditions placed on me by the Department of Social Development and agreed to the arrangements. My children, so far, have failed to be brought to me on 3 supervised scheduled visitations. So 3 times they have not been provided to me in compliance with that court order.
Okay. So, I mean, I understand this is upsetting for you, right?
This has been going on for 8 years. There's the same process that has happened by the St. John Police Department and the RCMP and Child Protection. Currently, I have a lawsuit that began in 2018 against the St. John Police Department. I have one against Dorothy Shepherd and the Department of Social Development for failing to recognize the abuse my children have been subjected to by this process. And currently, the RCMP have failed to investigate Section 282 of the Criminal Code, John Galloway, where he called me and said he called the Department of Social Development and they informed him that the protection order went in place on May 10th, which was a lie. So John Galloway failed to investigate the criminal complaint I made of my ex keeping my children from me in contravention of a court order. The RCMP already have a copy of that court order that states I have joint and shared custody of the children. And during the time I made the report, my children were kept from me in contravention of that order, and the interim order that is currently in place did not go into place until May 26. So during the period of April 26 to May 26, there was 2 RCMP officers at my home, Constable LeMay and Constable Brent Allaby, and they witnessed my children get in their vehicle and leave my home during my parenting time in contravention of a court order.
Okay.
I have video and photos of the children being coerced away by their mother, showing up at my property in my home, which is in contravention of our family court order, which I am in the process of filing motions for contempt. But taking the child and keeping them from me in contravention of a court order is a violation of Section 282 and 127 of the Criminal Code. During the period of April 26 to May 26, when I had scheduled parenting time, my children were not with me. They were kept from me knowingly by the RCMP, who helped my ex keep the children away from me, with the help of the intake, the after-hours number that John Galloway called, who lied to John Galloway that an emergency protection order went into place against me on May 10th of 2023. That was false. It was a lie. And John Galloway failed to do anything about it. In fact, he told me to make applications to court instead of investigating the criminal offense that took place.
So, I thank you for updating me on those events. I was not aware of, such things that happened there. What I can tell you is that how we usually proceed in this type of cases is, whenever there's family,
I know. Division J training manual says that you do not enforce custody orders. And I'm not asking you to enforce a custody order. I'm asking you to investigate a criminal offense of Section 282, where I have a court order that the children were supposed to be with me, and in front of 2 RCMP officers, she enticed them away from me, which is in violation of Section 282 of the Criminal Code, which is, according to the Criminal Code of Canada, a criminal offense, which is your job under the RCMP Act to investigate criminal offense, reports of criminal offenses. Now, you telling me to make an application to the court is not investigating, that's brushing me off, and that's negligence, because you're not investigating a criminal complaint, which is your job under the RCMP Act. Not only is it a violation of Section 282, it's also a violation of Section 127. Danica Edgett has been investigated in the past by James McKinnon for criminal harassment and hasn't been investigated under Section 282 and 127. She continues to follow the same pattern of process and makes reports which have led to me making complaints against officers like Jean-Luc, who showed up at my home a couple of years ago and said he was investigating me for choking my son. It was investigated by Chantal McIntosh of the Grand Bay Westfield Detachment and social worker Chantal Dubé, and it was found that I had in no way, shape, or form choked my son. So this was a false report made to the RCMP, which led to an investigation, which is also a crime of public mischief, Section 140 under the Criminal Code of Canada. Currently, that is what's taking place right now. My ex has made a false report to Child Protection, which has led to Dorothy Shepherd making an emergency application that they lied to John Galloway about being in place on May 10th. And my children were supposed to be with me during that day, and I have the conversation, it's already on my Facebook page with John Galloway regarding that date. I've shared it publicly because Because I keep reporting criminal offenses and no one investigates them. They keep telling me to go back to family court. I've already went to family court. I have a court order that says my children are supposed to be with me. They're not.
Right.
So that's a criminal offense.
And I get that, but that's the way, our policy goes, right? Whenever it's family related, we don't get it. Unless you're telling me that you have
can you show me that? Can you show me that policy?
Well, I can look it up. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I know you don't have it. It's part of the Division J training manuals. An officer has already read it to me. In accordance with the Family Services Act of New Brunswick, the RCMP do not enforce court orders. And again, that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to do your job and investigate a report of a criminal offense. Section 282 of the Criminal Code and 127. Both meet the criteria, and if you fail to investigate that, that's negligence. And it also could be collusion on your part by helping keep the children from me in contravention of the court order. Collusion is a civil tort. Collusion is a civil tort, which you can be sued for, and the RCMP can, but it's also a criminal offense. It's called criminal conspiracy.
Okay, so, if you have an issue as to how,
I've already contacted Civilian Ruin Complaints Commission and made numerous reports. I've also contacted Human Rights Canada because the RCMP is a federal agency and not under the jurisdiction of the province of New Brunswick.
Okay, so if you're saying that you have already made a complaint in regards to
not to this, not against you, against many other officers who have failed to investigate criminal reports. So, if you fail to investigate your criminal report, my next step will be to make a video of me filing a complaint with the Canadian Judicial Council for your negligence, and then I will start the process of filing a lawsuit against you and the RCMP for not only negligence but collusion and helping keep my children from in contravention of a court order instead of investigating the criminal offense as part of your job under the RCMP Act.
Well, but what I'm asking you is this event that you're telling me where your kid went with their mom, I imagine. Is that what happened?
They were supposed to be
the event you're talking to me about, right?
Yes, the children. Right now, the Minister of the Department of Social Development, Dorothy Shepherd, has made an application to have a protection order brought against me. They lied to John Galloway about that being in place on May 10th. They never made the application until May 23rd. The application went into effect on May 26th. Prior to May 26th, I had a court order for custody and access, and my children were kept from me in contravention of that court order. Since May 26th, Judge Danny Roy ordered me to have supervised visitation. I made arrangements with Cassie McDougall, agent...
But and I don't know, I'm not involved as to what information was relayed over to,
you don't have to.
The other officer. I understand what you're saying, but the thing is,
it's irrelevant. I've taken a criminal complaint to you of a violation of Section 282 of the Criminal Code of Canada. I would like to provide you with a copy of the court order to show you that Cassie McDougall and the Minister of the Department of Social Development, Dorothy Shepherd, are in criminal violation of Section 282 of the Criminal Code of Canada.
Well, I don't know what...
You're right. It's not up to you. You're not a lawyer. You're not a lawyer, and you can't determine that. So the next step for you is to collect the evidence as your job as a police officer, because you investigate criminal offenses and crimes, and you provide that information to the Crown to determine whether or not a crime is committed and whether or not there is any possibility of a conviction, whether or not they will move forward with this process or not. So please don't tell me to make an application to the court and brush me off, because then you're being negligent and you're not doing your job. Your job is to investigate criminal reports, and I'm trying to give you one, and I'm trying to give you the evidence of the criminal action that is currently taking place.
What I'm trying to tell you is that this is still relevant to the family court, right? Because it's social development in conjunction.
Again, are you a lawyer?
No, I'm not.
Then don't talk to me about family court and laws and regulations like that. You're a police officer. Your job is to investigate criminal offenses and criminal complaints as part of your job under the RCMP Act.
What I'm telling you is that we do not get involved unless there's a concern for the safety of the children.
Again, I'm not asking you to get involved. I'm asking you to investigate a criminal offense.
and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
No, you're trying to brush me off. You're trying to not investigate a criminal offense, which makes you complicit in colluding with the people that are violating the court order.
But that's still,
That's collusion. That's don't talk to me about family court orders. You're not a lawyer. You don't know the laws, and you have no idea about the Family Services Act of New Brunswick. Your job is, and your powers to do your job is given to you by the RCMP Act. And your job as an RCMP officer is to investigate criminal code violations and arrest people in accordance with the laws of our country. Now, you do your job as an investigator, you collect evidence, and you provide it on to the Crown to determine whether or not there is enough to move forward with charges or whether or not they're going to drop it. You do not make that decision. Right now, if you're not going to move forward and take my evidence, then you are doing the job of the Crown prosecutor, and that is not your job. So you're being negligent in your duties as an RCMP officer. And not only will I sue the RCMP for it, I'm going to sue you and name you in it as well. For civil conspiracy.
Have you presented this document, the new court order that you're talking about, or not yet?
Not to anyone. No one has contacted me yet. Okay. I am at 9 Bayview Road. You can drop by.
So who issued this to you? Is it Dorothy Shepherd that...
Dorothy Shepherd's the Minister of the Department of Social Development. She's the one who made the application that was granted by Judge Danny Roy.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make a criminal report here because my children are kept from me. It's been almost 50 days since I've seen or heard from them. A judge ordered for the minister and Cassie McDougall to make sure I had supervised visitation, and that has failed to happen as of yet. So they are in contempt of court, which I can make an application to the court to have them found in contempt. But I don't go to the family court to say they committed a criminal offense, do something about it. That's what I call the police or the RCMP for. Because they're violating the Criminal Code of Canada. I'm still going to be making an application for contempt to the family court. And the family court can decide what they're going to do for these parties being in contempt of court. But for your job, I am making a criminal report of a criminal offense. And I wish to provide you evidence of that criminal offense. And if you do not take it, then you're not doing your job.
Okay, so the reason you're calling today is because you want to fill you want to go for the offenses against these two people that you've mentioned?
Yes, I do.
Supposed to be accommodating the supervised visitation?
That is correct. They are in violation of a court order, which is a matter for the court to deal with when I file a motion for contempt, but it is also a matter for the police to deal with because it is a criminal matter of them failing to comply with the court order, Section 127 of the Criminal Code, and Section 282. Detaining, harboring, keeping, enticing away, not providing me my children in compliance with the court order made by Judge Danny Roy. I have the court order. You already, at the RCMP station, have a copy of my previous divorce agreement court order for custody and access, which I had joint shared custody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll have to, let me go back to my supervisor here and I'll give you a call back, okay?
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.